Hello everyone and welcome to another video today. This time a different video, and it's just to compare the two different handling models and the two different builds of F1 2016 that we've had so far, particularly the start of the game and current build, which is 1.8, but the recording I've got is actually 1.7, but the handling hasn't changed from 1.7 to 1.8. It's pretty much the same, apart from some minor changes to glitches and all that stuff. So today's video is going back to the old build. I actually had some recording that some gameplay that I recorded back on 1.2, which is around August 2016 time, around the launch of the game, and to show how the handling has changed, and it has changed a lot, in my opinion. I don't know if everyone else thinks the same, but in my opinion, the game has changed quite a bit in terms of its handling. And we'll probably see it. I actually did a video on this before, first impressions, back in the day when the game launched. So here we go for the comparison here, and as you can see, we're at Japan, and obviously it's me driving pretty much back in August and in November, and two different builds of 1.2 and 1.7. We start our laps right now pretty equal, we have to say, and going into sort of the first sector or so, you will see that pretty much we understand a little bit on 1.2. Otherwise it's pretty similar, but the difference is with these two different builds is that it's the way the car actually went into corners. With 1.2 you can really just fly into corners, have so much confidence with the car, knowing it won't understeer, but with 1.7 it's much more understeery, and you can particularly see in the first sector, you'll see, and the second sector, that we're faster on the 1.2 build by literally hundredths in the first sector, and this is where we actually gain a lot of our time in the second sector. It's the 1.2 is just much better. You can actually just turn into corners. With 1.2 you just turn into corners and the car would stick. But with 1.7 you have, and 1.8 even currently for the past couple of builds, is that it's much more understeery. So there's this confidence going into corners, because you couldn't just fling it into corners, and as a result 1.2 for me I thought was faster build. And going into the double left-hander here, and then here, look at this, we're far much more ahead here than 1.7. But what does gain 1.7 a lot, and that's why times here are very equal, is the traction. The traction for 1.7 was far better. Like, literally, you could put the power down more faster, and you'll see it here, we're up by literally 3/10 on 1.2, and the last chicane here, and the traction, you can get on the power so much more earlier with 1.7 than 1.2, and with 1.2 we're losing the time against 1.7, and there you go, 1.7 is just faster by literally hundredths of a second. So that is pretty close between the two of those builds indeed, and that's really what I'm saying, really. I mean, with 1.7 it became more of an understeery build, and even right now, since the launch of the game, it was so much more challenging. You could really push the car to its limits and all that stuff, and I just felt that, in my opinion, like, yes, the 1.2 was much more oversteery, and you had to be more careful with the curbs and with your throttle input. With 1.7, it's just easier. It's more like 2015, F1 2015, with the way that the throttle is, and how you can put your throttle down, and how quick you can put it down. And that is one thing I have to say about the game that really I found that the challenge of the original build, the launch build of the game, is completely gone. It's literally just 1.7 is the game right now is very easy to play. It's like F1 2015. It is harder than 2015. The curbs are harder, yes, but I felt that the challenge factor that we had with 1.2, where you have to be patient with the throttle, the curbs, you can ride the curbs. Like you're seeing in the gameplay right now, this is my literally first laps on the game that I recorded, and it's actually in the video, my first impressions video. You have to be so much more careful with the throttle. It was much more, the front end was much more nip. Like, you could literally throw the car in and the car would stick, like almost like F1 2013 style, but obviously still not as arcadey as that. But on level, it was just much more enjoyable to drive. You could have much more confidence, and I found with now it's much more understeery, and the cost of that is that it means that you can actually get on the throttle earlier, because they've made it easier to get on the throttle. And personally, I don't like the challenge, and I so much preferred the first build, the launch build of the game. And I don't know why Codemasters decided to change up the handling model. It was fine when it launched, in my opinion, and the launch build was much better than the current build we've got right now. The current build is much more understeery, and a lot of the setups that people run now as well are completely different to the launch, and that's not because you get faster and you need to find different ways, is because the handling's changed, so you have to change the actual setup alongside with it. So, in my opinion, it's just it's a really irritating scenario for a lot of the hardcore league racers, because we all loved, I think most of us, the majority loved the first build of the game. It's not a bad game right now. I mean, I just feel it's completely different to what it was. I just personally, 1.7 was just. And 1.8 they're much more understeer builds. You don't have much confidence to fling it into corners because you're not knowing that it will stick. The 1.2, you could just throw it in there, the car would respond to you, but the cost of that is that if you got too confident, the car was ready to bite with its oversteer and with the curves, and I think that was a big challenge, and that's what separated people who played the game a lot compared to people who didn't play the game a lot. So my hopes really is that, I've signed up for the beta for 2017, and I'm hoping that, I'll say I did it last year as well, for 2016 as well, and this year I'm hoping to get some sort of involvement with beta testing for 2017, because I really wanted to go back really to the first build, the 1.2 build. I really want to. That handling for me was incredible. It was so fun. It was so challenging at the same time, but rewarding when you got it right. And obviously now I find it's not like that. But I want to go back. I almost want to get the game back to that. And I'm hoping that if I get some sort of beta involvement, and I actually have the beta, that I can do that. But obviously I know that maybe I might not be one of them again this year. There's 300 codes per platform, so there might be other people doing it, but I'm just hoping that everyone gives their feedback as much as they can. Like last year, I'm hoping that with more beta codes comes more feedback, and the game can get better and better and better. Now, personally, I feel that, I just feel that maybe this game needs to be a bit more challenging, and I felt sometimes at the start of the game that people couldn't get used to the oversteer with the initial builds, and that's why the handling changed, because Masters received so many complaints about how the oversteer was and how hard it was to drive the cars, and that's why maybe they changed it to maybe be a bit more easier to get on the throttle, and the cars were easier as well. I think there was a lot of complaints from people who didn't really play the game as much as they could have done to get better, and I think Codemasters had listened too early. Not to say that that those people, their opinion is invalid, but I felt that they listened too. I think they didn't. They judged it too much, basically too early, and I'm hoping that maybe it can get better. So that's this video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more wrestling content on this channel, and I will see you in the next video, which should be my AOR highlights probably for Malaysia. So thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Bye, guys.